Hey everybody, it's Minius, and Thursday we got a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of Mass Effect stuff, mostly in the form of previews. I've got a link in the description box, compiled by, I believe, Ash, Lady Insanity, that has a ton of stuff to go through if you like. Some of it's really cool. For instance, Mass Effect Andromeda will feature sexy doctors. Or I guess a sexy doctor.
What?
It's also been confirmed that the playable area is larger than all of the Mass Effect trilogy combined, and significantly larger than all the area in Dragon Age Inquisition.
What?
I've got some really cool stuff coming up on all of that, but this video concentrates specifically on the second gameplay series video that concentrates on profiles and your squad, and that video answered a ton of questions, so let's dive right into it. Probably the biggest thing from this recent video isn't at all combat related. It's the fact that it's confirmed that these 6 squad mates here make up the entire roster. I guess there's a chance they're hiding more squad mates somewhere, but it doesn't sound like it. And I'm sure that's not great news for some of you. Hopefully these characters are detailed enough to make up for the smaller roster, although the only Mass Effect game that this roster is much smaller than is Mass Effect 2. You've got Jaal, the Angaran resistance fighter. Jaal is by far the squad mate that we know the least about at this point. I believe that's intentional. In fact, the most insightful note about him that we've gotten so far is that resistance fighter tag. And what could that mean? What is he resisting against? I'm gonna go with the cat. The fact that this Andromedan alien decides to team up with a bunch of outsiders kind of suggests that something is putting a ton of pressure on the local citizens of the Helios cluster, and the Ket are the most likely culprit. It makes sense for Jaal to join these outsiders if he's desperate enough to do anything to resist and throw off the Ket yoke. In the one scene from the first gameplay trailer, you can see many Angarans hanging out in a mostly Milky Way race-dominated settlement. According to the info we have about the story in Mass Effect Andromeda, this settlement is probably no more than a year old. Now, integration in the Mass Effect universe is generally really quick, kind of ridiculously quick. But the fact that these new aliens have blended in with such a high speed indicates that they really have a lot of confidence, or at least trust, in your Milky Way coalition, which as far as the story is concerned is interesting. Then there's Drac, the Krogan, listed here as a veteran warrior. Drac, by the way, is 1400 years old, which makes him the oldest Krogan that we know about. I mean, we've seen older Krogan before, but not with an age attached to him. And my assumption, backed a bit by lore, was that Krogan didn't live much past a millennium, but they never officially put a cap on that. I'm sure one of the things that you can get out of chatting with Drac during this game is a whole new layer of Krogan lore, which is really cool. Drac is one of the 2 squad mates we have highlighted in this video. Unsurprisingly, he's probably invincible. We get a look at his abilities, limited to just 3 active ones. The first is Blood Rage, almost certainly limited to Drac, or at least Krogan. Blood Rage is actually a thing in lore, a real Krogan state, usually triggered by combat or injury, where the enraged Krogan becomes pretty much immune to pain and usually goes berserk, losing control mentally. In this case, though, Blood Rage allows Drac to become a raging force of nature, wading into battle with increased melee damage, damage reduction, and health regeneration. And you can see those bonuses here, which are significant and come at least at rank 5, with increased damage versus armor, increased movement, and increased recharge speed. Drac also has Incinerate and Flak Cannon. We've seen both of those abilities before, and they seem to go very well with the Krogan. The 2 passives are titled Krogan Warrior and Grizzled Veteran. We don't get a look at exactly what those do, but based on previous Mass Effect character builds, they probably represent weapon damage or ability damage, and health or melee damage respectively. There's Liam, the Human Crisis Specialist, which is officially his role on the team and kind of works with his background as a space cop. We've seen PB the Asari's title of Rogue Academic before. It's kind of a literal title. We know she's interested in studying remnant technology and shuns social norms. Apparently she's very flirty too, at least according to some of the press impressions we got on Thursday. There's Vetra, the Turian Drifter Mercenary. Vetra might actually be a lot older than we thought. I saw her described as sort of a den mother. Combine that with the Drifter title, and I'm sure she's been around for a while, probably much longer than Garrus in the original trilogy, although I'm guessing here. And finally, there's the human Korra, who we get a whole lot of in this trailer, officially titled a Biotic Commando. Those of you who have been with the Andromeda news cycle for a while probably know that she spent many years with an Asari commando unit.
Have you faced an Asari commando unit before? Few humans have.
We get a look at her abilities too, and she's basically a full-on Vanguard with Biotic Charge, Nova, and then this ability, possibly unique to her, called Shield Boost. We've seen an ability called Shield Boost in the Mass Effect multiplayer with the Volus characters, but this at least appears to work a bit different for her. There's this shield in the gameplay we got, which you can kind of see as a massive blue, possibly biotic bubble, and that's something that was in the original big Reddit leak from way back. It actually looks incredibly similar to the Asari Justicar Adept's ability from the multiplayer, which has the added benefit of reducing allies' shield recharge delay and increasing their damage protection. I should also add that the shield boost ability here is orange, which stands for a tech ability, and what I've been describing doesn't sound so techy, so perhaps her ability works differently. We don't get a look at the description of what the ability actually does though, so we'll have to guess for now. Her last two passives are Asari Commando and Defensive Training, in line with previous Mass Effect games and in line with what I said about Drac. This probably means weapon or power damage and health or melee damage respectively. And this gameplay vid goes into how you can control or direct your squad mates in combat. You've got the traditional Mass Effect commands of sending your squad to a location, rallying them to your side, or directing them to attack a specific target, which is indicated by these icons. But there's more. Your squad mates are instrumental in combo detonations. And combo detonations were probably the best part of the Mass Effect multiplayer. They really doubled down on their effect, and now they brought that to Andromeda, which is fantastic. I was afraid, based on what we had seen, that your squad mates would be virtually useless. This combo mechanic pretty much not only ensures that this isn't the case, but might make your squad more useful than they've ever been before. According to Mass Effect creative director Mac Walters, who is narrating again, there are two ways that this works. They can prime targets for you to detonate with your abilities, or they can detonate your prime targets for explosions, which is what we get a lot of in the trailer. And I should probably explain this mechanic a bit further since it became only a really big deal in the multiplayer, or maybe even just with Biotics earlier. I'll use this clip from the gameplay to explain. Ryder jumps in and uses a singularity, which both lifts these enemies up in the air and, quote, primes them as they're affected by the ability. Korra then zooms in with Biotic Charge, which detonates that primed effect and kills them all. The same thing happens in the earlier clip, where Ryder freezes some raiders with the cryo beam, and again, Korra zooms in to blow them all up. I was already going to bring Korra along when I played because of narrative reasons, but I can tell she'll be incredibly useful on the battlefield with this new mechanic.
You want to see how far I'll go?
This gameplay video also got into the profile system, which will be replacing classes for Mass Effect Andromeda, and I kind of wish they showed more. I'll break this down fully once I get my hands on the game. What's shown here are categories. You've got profiles based on your original 6 classes: Soldier, Engineer, Adept, Sentinel, Vanguard, and Infiltrator, each of which, as you probably know, is either a specialization of a specific ability type, combat, tech, and biotics, or a combination of 2 of them. The 7th profile is called Explorer, which is new and is a mix of all 3 combat types. Each of these profiles gives passive bonuses related to those abilities. Again, I'm going to go into that in a future video in full detail soon. A quick look shows the Adept enhances biotic abilities, obviously, and the Explorer, at least, increases weapon damage and damage resistance. These profiles have ranks with names that might indicate what rank you're at. We can see here that this Explorer rank is rank 2, called a Pioneering Seeker. These ranks can be acquired by speccing into certain branches of abilities. The Explorer profile requires a certain number of points in all 3 categories, combat, tech, and biotics, while the Adept requires more points, but only in biotics. You can see that by leveling up abilities, you unlock higher ranks. In this case, the Adept was increased to rank 5, called Kinetic Master, which is sure to bring an increased level of passives to help out specifically with biotics. So that's at least 7 profiles for you, but here's where things get crazy. You can switch these profiles on the fly, in the middle of combat, along with your abilities. The first and clearest look at the favorites wheel is here. You can see 4 favorite spots with the possibility of up to 12 abilities. In this case, some are doubles. But let's have a closer look. Favorite number 2 is a soldier rank 4 profile, noted by the whole red shield, called Initiative Commando, with 3 active abilities mapped, specifically Flat Cannon, Concussive Shot, and Barricade. Favorite number 3 features the Adept rank 4 profile called Kinetic Wielder, plus Pole, Biotic Charge, and Throw. Favorite number 4 features the Engineer rank 4 profile called Technical Overseer, plus Cryo Beam, Assault Turret, and Flamethrower. And the final, or first favorite, features the Multidisciplined Explorer profile rank 6 called Andromeda Explorer, with Flat Cannon, Biotic Charge, and Cryo Beam. And there's a good look at the way that all of this works in action right after this, although with drastically different profiles equipped. The most important takeaway from all of this is that this system addresses the fear of only having 3 abilities that can be accessed at once. That isn't the case. You can get up to 12. And I can see already that there is a ton of experimentation that needs to be done to master this system. Depending on your tastes, this is going to be awesome or tedious. The extended clip we get features 4 spec loadouts covering a sniper infiltrator, a close quarters combat specialist with an emphasis on combos, a ranged biotic, and a straight up soldier. And within seconds of watching just the first part of the scene, I can already tell that the possibilities are astounding. And I mean it. Thousands of possible ability combinations from which you can choose 4. It's actually kind of ridiculous, but potentially fun. Some extra notes on this: it looks like it takes the pressing of 2 buttons and then a directional movement to switch loadouts from one to another, so a little more complicated than the classic Mass Effect ability wheel, though it might not be too difficult to get used to. Switching loadouts also resets the cooldowns of all your abilities, so you don't have instant access to everything. Each ability does have an individual cooldown, some of which are short, but some of which are very long. You should be able to overcome the shortcomings of this system by ensuring that each loadout has an ability with a quick cooldown, but you can see the potential problems of wanting to use a bunch of abilities right away. An interesting note here is that this breakdown kind of reaffirms something that's been clear for a while. This game was designed to be used with a controller. We've gotten a lot at this point, but every single clip we've seen uses a controller. Even the stuff captured on a PC, like these last 2 videos. And I seriously doubt any of this works different with a keyboard, although I'll be sure to check once I get the chance. And this is going to bring up some different emotions for some of you. This clearly qualifies as consoleization. Be sure to sound off in the comment section about this, and I'm going to make it a feature topic of a future video.
As your legal advocate, I advise you to shut the hell up.
A few more notes before I go. Some of these enemies look really cool, and cool-looking enemies is something that I look for in any game. One of the reasons I like taking on the Geth so much in the first Mass Effect and really throughout the whole trilogy was their sleek-looking design. The Collectors also had a similar cool/fun feel to them. And the Ket that you take on in the main clip look great, especially the big hulking guys that make up the majority of the forces. Of course, there's a space bear in the mix, and I've kind of been in love with these things for a while, but ultimately cool-looking enemies really improve the overall experience, in my opinion. We finally get a look at how the new biotic ability Lance works right here. This may be a warp replacement. I know that a number of you were asking where warp was after the last video. Many of you have been asking about tech armor. It is in the game. You can see Ryder using it here, but it might be a passive ability, which means you probably can't intentionally detonate it like you could in the previous games. We'll have to see if they're hiding more than the 24 active abilities we've seen so far. It's a definite possibility, but I wouldn't count on it. Blind fire is a thing. That was actually in the last video too, which I didn't pick up on because it caught me completely off guard. I never would have expected Mass Effect to have blind fire, and I actually don't like blind fire that much, but I guess I'll have to test this one out. You can see, as far as at least the Space Bear is concerned, that it appears to attack the closest target. If you back off, it goes for one of your squad. which is a bit messed up, but useful when it comes to fighting. At the end of this video, is that a planet scanning mechanic? Oh boy. Also, looting enemies is a thing in Mass Effect Andromeda. You can see here, this fallen cat has a dot on him that's labeled Remains, which you can almost certainly search after you're done. We don't get a look at what can be looted, but it's cool that you can. That's definitely a classic RPG mechanic. And with that, there appears to be an item limit. I didn't mention that in the last video because it appears to be broken or rigged, and still does. I don't think 133 out of 50 slots is possible. I saw Omni-Gel mentioned in one of the previews, so you might end up breaking down lots of gear again. On Mass Effect 1. But if you want more about combat and abilities, you should check out my earlier video titled The Massive Mass Effect Andromeda Gameplay Breakdown. This video, though, has a lot. I intentionally didn't cover a bunch of the little stuff, but I'm sure to have unintentionally missed some things. 25,000 pairs of eyes are better than one, so let me know what I missed in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel. Keep an eye on Minius GC for more Mass Effect videos. But for now, I should go.
I'm more confident than he is, more in control. With me, it's more like, that's all for now.
Exactly. Full stop. You're the one ending the conversation.
I doubt there's enough air in here either. An hour at most.
Or sometimes, I'll talk to you later. Because you know what? I never do. Leave him wanting more.